What's wrong with this television set? Oh, it's that James Whale programme. Emily, come here, come and have a look at this. I don't know how he got a programme. Him, he can't even talk properly.
James Whale Radio Show. Live from Radio Air.
Ooh, hasn't he got a lovely tie?
Right, welcome to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, lovely to have you with us. The James Whale Radio Show tonight, live from Leeds. And I have to tell you before we go any further that all those poor people in London are going to be joining us about 9 minutes or so late. They have a little party going on at the moment. But never mind, so you can ring us now. The phone number's coming up on the screen. Monitor's not working. Oh, I've turned it off now. That's clever. Leeds, which is 0532 46 1000. You can phone us on. You can fax us as well. Our fax number is coming up. And there it is, which is 0532 421 830. We have a number of faxes, and we'll try and mention some of those a little bit later on. So if you want to call us on any subject you feel like, you can give us a ring right now. Now, in a couple of weeks, I can't watch that, making a mess. Right. A couple of weeks' time, we're actually going to be talking about green issues, OK? And we have a fairly appropriate video coming up for you, first of all, on the programme. It's the new one from the Pet Shop Boys. Now, I'm told that this is apparently an exclusive to the chart show tomorrow. Oh, no, it isn't, because here on the James Whale Show, we have it as an exclusive tonight. The first TV viewing of the new one from the Pet Shop Boys right here for you, and it's all right. It's all right. Is it? There we are. Thank you. It's all right. The Pet Shop Boys, all about green issues, which we're talking about in a couple of weeks' time. In fact, Glenys Kinnock is going to be our special guest on the show. And we thought, well, what better thing to do than to invite some other top people onto the programme? So we got in touch with the Secretary of State for the Environment, Mr. Nicholas Ridley, no less. And his office said, well, OK, we think he might like to appear on your show, but could you send us a list of questions for him? And we said, well, it's a live show. How can James possibly know what he's going to ask him? But we thought about it and we sent a fax to his office and we're still waiting for a reply. So if anybody from Mr. Ridley's office is watching, we sent a fax down with half a dozen or so questions like, how was the journey, Nick? We thought that would be an appropriate one, one that would come up. 2, is the bed and breakfast hotel room OK, mate? And 3, what did you think of the video? These are all sort of things that I would ask him, aren't they? You agree? Yes. Yeah. Which flavour condom would you like, sir? Raspberry. Do you approve of tonight's bimbo? Speaking of which, Caroline, we've got some calls you can bring in there. And Secretary of State, would you mind shutting up? Just a selection of some of the questions for Nicholas Ridley that we would actually like him to respond to. So if you're watching, perhaps you get back and fax us if you can. Thank you, Caroline. That's very nice, isn't it? Very nice indeed. Right. Katie from Tottenham. Hello, Katie.
Hello.
Hello,
Tottenham,
Katie.
not Tottenham.
Sorry, where?
Tottenham.
You can't watch us at the moment, can you?
Yeah, I can. I'm watching you, and you're still as horny as ever. You know, you're so horny.
Yeah, this is
Things
true,
are
Katie.
like
That's enough smut. That's enough smut, Katie. I don't really want to become a sex symbol. It's difficult for somebody like me not to be a sex symbol, but, Katie, you know, please.
OK, I won't be smutty. I'd just like you to know that I really prefer the licorice condom.
Thank you, Katie. That's more than enough from you. David. Hello, David.
Hello, James.
Yes, David.
Apart from me, there's been no laughs on your show since you stopped wearing your suits. Did somebody shoot your tailor?
You know, I was talking about that before the programme. Don't you? Do you want me to wear a...
Oh, well...
OK, you got it. Listen, David, you got it, OK? Where are you calling from? Norway, it says here. You're not
well,
calling...
they've certainly shifted the map, then.
No, they've probably shifted it. Thank you, David. Never mind. Let's take a break. More calls. Keep calling us and fax us as well. Back after this. We're back. Are we back? Yes, we're back. How are you? Lovely to see you, and welcome to all those of you in London. You don't know what you missed. Mind you, I'm not sure if you missed anything now, talking to a girl from Tottenham a few moments ago. We've had live striptease on the show tonight. First time on the programme ever. We've had the cameramen stripping off completely. They are all in leather thongs tonight. Very... Don't cut to him. They'll see I'm lying. And all sorts of other things, which we'll be talking about a little later. The Clark is one of my guests. How are you?
Good evening, James. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. And one of the things we're going to be talking about tonight is disability, and I'll explain a little more later. But the problems of disability, not only the problems, you know, when you can't get into a place because you're in a wheelchair, because you know, there's no ramp, but the sort of things people don't discuss very much. Sexual problems, problems making a relationship. In fact, not so long ago, a couple of days ago, wasn't it? Yeah, Tuesday.
Probably, yes.
Young James went out to find out whether or not dating agencies or introduction bureaus catered for disabled people, and you went with him, didn't you?
Yes, we went out with even younger Heather.
Did you really?
Yes.
Did I call you Helen?
No, no, no.
I called you Helen?
You did, yeah.
Yeah. We'll sort of see what his report's like, shall we?
Right.
Are you sure about that?
I think so.
Yeah? Don't you take that tone with me.
OK, cutes.
James, talk to us.
Whaley goes to town.
A little less of the back chat, James, if you don't mind. Well, we're here, crew and all, including Mr. Microphone, who's down here trying to keep out of the way and not doing a very good job at it, at the Gemini Introduction Agency. Not a marriage bureau, not a dating agency, according to Merrill, the owner, and Heather and I have come along here. So far, I've been told it's no good for me because I'm married. You might have better luck. So what happens? I mean, if you send a photograph of Heather, would you actually have to tell them about her disabilities?
No, I would eventually.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you put down on details, attractive girl, fine, in a wheelchair, whatever, however we put it. Well, nobody would even be interested. I mean, you must know that yourself from outside, because they would conjure up a picture, and it's people out there that are funny, not anybody else. Now, it's my job to sell Heather as a person, not as an object, not in a wheelchair, as a person.
I mean, if Heather came to you, how many introductions could you fix her up with, do you think, if she was serious about it?
I've no idea. But then again, if she wasn't in a wheelchair, I wouldn't promise anything either. It works, and it works for a lot of people, but I don't make promises and I don't guarantee any number of introductions because every person's an individual.
Merrill, how many disabled people do you have on your books, and have you had any successes with any of them?
Yes, we've had a success. Not many, depending on what you call a disability. What's a disability? We have people that have MS, for a start off. To them, that's a disability. We've had people that are deaf. We've got people that are blind. We've got people that are obviously physically, you know, handicapped. So what is a disability? People with handicaps in one way or another that all want to lead a, quote, normal life. And yes, we've had a recent success on somebody that is, well, handicapped, but lives a perfectly normal life. And outwardly, you perhaps wouldn't know that she was handicapped, but she's now quite happily in a relationship. And it was actually the second person that she met.
Do many disabled people use them? I mean, would you consider using an agency yourself or not?
Personally not, no. But that's just me. I mean, it's like replying to ads in the personal column in the newspaper. Sometimes you're tempted to do it just to see, well, he sounds a bit of all right, or he sounds a complete nutcase.
But you don't think it's more difficult being in your situation than anybody else? It's all down to the personality?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You can put obstacles in your own way, just on a mental basis. You develop mental blocks, but that's your own fault.
OK, well, I think I said about it, really. Cut there. Cecil, can I borrow sorry, can I borrow the pen? Now, Meryl, if you'd just like to write down the names of those agencies that specialise in a bit on the side, who knows, another programme sometime.
You want I should be sued?
Yeah. No, just write them down. Yeah, I won't mention them. I won't mention them. Back to you, James. And we'll go and talk to them a little later. Cecil, if you leave bits like that on the film again, we're going to have words. I'm sorry about that. Very sorry. Now, over here, first of all, let me introduce you to Gareth Morgan, who is the director of SPOD, shorthand for Morgan Williams, I should say. Morgan,
Thank you.
For sexual problems of the disabled. And Morgan and you, she's been having a go at me, don't look at me like that. Do not look at me like that. Are going to guide me through this, because we're known for being a little sarky on this show from time to time. This is a serious subject, and we want to treat it that way. And if you want to call, if there's a serious question that you have, then call us, because you're director of an organisation that actually stands for Sexual Problems of the Disabled, which
That's right.
People who are not disabled probably have trouble in thinking that disabled people actually think in a sexual manner.
Or are sexual beings at all. They see the wheelchair or a disability and look straight past the person. And really do nothing to give them any sense of dignity as a sexual being or any opportunities for relationships.
Now, you've just recently held a conference about this, and one
yesterday.
of the... Yesterday, that recently.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And for anybody who's wondering what the noise is, apart from them talking over there, and I shall be over there and smack whoever talks in a few moments, is a lot of rain coming in on the roof, which I think you may or may not be able to hear. Now, apparently, AIDS and the disabled is a problem, a serious problem. I'm surprised at that. I just didn't cross my mind.
Well, it was one of the hardcore issues we looked at yesterday under the heading Whose Risk? And it was saying, whose risk? Do we allow disabled people to take risks, or are the professionals scared of taking risks in allowing people there looking after in their residential home or day centre to take risks? And we realised that people with disabilities just hadn't been considered where AIDS was concerned, amongst many other issues.
I mean, do people have a lot of sexual... I mean, do people who are disabled want a sex life? I mean, I shouldn't ask that question, perhaps I should know, but do they actually want to...
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Like the rest of us. It all starts up here. The messages go down, and if you have a disability like a spinal injury or MS or whatever, the messages get stuck and you think, help, I can't do that, or can I, or...
So people's minds still want to, and quite often sometimes they can't, their bodies won't allow them to.
That's right.
So this is a subject that, as far as I'm aware, isn't discussed on television, hasn't been discussed by many people ever before.
Right.
What happens when somebody contacts you? What sort of help can you give them?
Well, often it's practical suggestions, and often it's encouragement and saying, yes, go out there, we're giving you information and support and help to go out and have a relationship, or to resolve problems in a relationship that you might be in.
Can I ask, Heather, I mean, you've done a lot of exceptionally unusual things, including skydiving. Now, you have no arms and you have no legs. So you had to entrust yourself to some chap who strapped you on his front and just jumped out of an aeroplane. What?
Well, not only that, but he was an Irishman as well, so...
Listen, we got Gary's going to do the jokes in a few moments. Gary
Right.
Skyner, who we'll introduce you to, who's a comedian. So, you know, he'll get upset if you do the jokes. Have you got a boyfriend at the moment? Have you had regular boyfriends? Do you go out with guys?
I have, yes, no, and not at the moment.
You're open to offers at the moment?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I mean, I went out with someone the other night, and to make sure, I said to him, have you got some rubbers, you know? And he said, he supplied me with some Pirelli 12x14s, so...
Oh, please!
Right?
Do you find that talking about sex, or if you're out with a guy who may not necessarily, presumably, be disabled at all, do you ever get to talking about sex? Does somebody say, I'll take Heather out, but of course that'll be it. Good night, peck on the cheek. What happens when it gets further than that?
Well, what happens when you take somebody out,
I don't.
James?
I don't.
It's the same. It's the
Yeah.
same. Just because you're in a wheelchair or you have some physical problem, you've still got a brain the same as everybody else. You still think you have the same feelings, everything else.
OK, we're going to come back and talk about this some more. If you want to, as I'm saying quite seriously, make a sensible call tonight. We'll talk about other things, not so sensible, but please give us a ring. 0532 46 1000 is the number to call. Now, relax. All right? Sure? Good. Often on the show, which camera is doing the business tonight? That one. Often on the show, we have a thing called a Whaley's Whaler, and that means somebody has decided to get in front of their own video at home, and you sent one in, didn't you, just now, giving me one. I want you to watch this, and at home, I want you to sing along with this. This is one of the most entertaining Whaley's Whalers we have ever seen. And I'd like to say hi to all my good friends in Newcastle in the northeast as well, which is where this one comes from. And if you think you can do better than this, record it and send it to us. We'll give you the address a little bit later on. But now, watch and enjoy as we introduce you to Andrew Tate, and Newcastle is my home.
Carry a knife, tart like this. fancy the Swiss or go to football on a Saturday. Bought my grub in the pub, but I am still a Geordie through and through. Bonnie lads on Payson Road in Chester, there's a post office I use, and next to that an antique shop that sells peculiar shoes. Across the road there's nothing much but dirty garage doors, where often can be seen car owners crawling on all fours, and just around the corner is a hospital where the TV gives birth to little monsters that will go into us one day, and at the other end there is a quiet cemetery, which holds the bones of friends I love that's slaughtered military, and halfway in between there is the place where I live, which has a filthy fountain, so I think I better give the flaming figure scrub a flash, or dip and make it clean. Newcastle is my home, where you can slash my knee, cut off my head, spread yeast extract all over my bed, steal my tube, give me through, or throw a code and run my ego and hide my cat, say I'm fat, but you will never get me to hate you. Only lies, Newcastle city centre, though I have nothing to day, in early morning when I'm yawning all my care away, has got a certain ambiance that permeates my brain, and reawakes the child in me and makes me feel his pain, for in the shape of every man in crossroads must stop metro track, I see the truth of places where I learned to be alone, and now I'm in the train on top of the high level bridge, and now in FedEx hoping no one will sell me a fridge, and now in exhibition park and now in Jesmond Bean, and now in that suspicious shop to get a magazine, the burden of this talk is that I'm also happy that Newcastle is home.
Here we are! Enough! That was Andrew Tate, Newcastle is my home. That was good. We liked that, didn't we? Excellent. Now, some letters. Thank you very much indeed for the mail. If you'd like to write to us about any subject, or one of the subjects we're actually talking about, then the address is going to come up on your screen. There it is, Wales Mail. You know the address. Paul Cook in the West Midlands has made some observations on the programme. He says, over the past few weeks, your show has become slick and professional. This will not do. What steps are you taking to restore it to its previous level? I thought the clothes were quite a step in the direction this week. Nick Craig in Nottingham says, let's have more Le Negre Vert, which we had on last week, which I thought was great. Andy Ferguson in Glasgow says, I agree with the phone call from John in Edinburgh on last week's show about the himbo Boothby, I think his name was. I dare you to have him on again wearing only his briefs. Scub, we know what sort of person you are, Andy. Oh, and a message to Clint McConaughey in County Londonderry, who wonders why we don't read out his letters. Write something interesting, Clint, and we might. Right. What else have we got here? Wayne Stevenson in Blackpool says, how about getting Wendy James from Transvision Vamp to strip naked? Hooray! And perform disgusting sexual acts with a halibut, whilst one of those topless Japanese darts players, I think they call them sumo wrestlers, gets whipped by a leather-clad Mary Whitehouse. And that was a letter in answer to our fantasy show last week, which I thought was rather good. I enjoyed that. Now, finally, Mary Buff from here in Leeds says, thought I would like to see the whale in Cyprus. Well, she says she's sorry. There it is. That's the whale in Cyprus, apparently. She's sorry there are no signs, but assures me that this is where the picture was taken. Well, if this is getting very Blue Peterish, it is getting very Blue Peterish, isn't it? You thought I was going to say, here's one I made earlier. You shut up. If you can come up with something slightly more unusual or disgusting, then send it in to us at Wales Mail, and perhaps we can feature it on the programme. Fantastic. OK, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to meet a very unusual comic. You may have seen him before. You'll certainly remember after you've seen him tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Gary Skyner.
Good evening. James, what's the idea? You've given me Bernard Manning's changing room. Look at that, he's left them in there from last time. Good God. Bloody hell. He's just got on a hunger strike, Bernard Manning. His doctors have given him 16 years to live. Now, but tell you what, I'm made up to come here tonight, ladies and gents, because I've just come back from Saudi Arabia. I've been having arms talks, never got any. Now, if I tell the truth, there used to be an Arab shoplifter and I got caught. But tell you what, seriously though, don't we get clobbered up here in the north through one thing or another, eh? That Margaret Thatcher, the only cow that doesn't give milk. What's Cecil Parkinson and MFI got in common? One loose screw and the old cabinet falls apart. I was at Manchester Airport the other day. Margaret Thatcher come past. I said, all right, Margaret, where you going on your holidays? She said, Gary, Prime Ministers don't have holidays. I said, where you going then? She said, I'm going to Bangkok. I said, you might as well. I said, you banned everything else. She went to the palace the other week. The Queen said, Margaret, kneel down. I'm going to make you into a dame. So she knelt down. She got the sword out. She went, arise, Margaret. She stayed where she was. She said, arise, Margaret. She stayed where she was. She said, arise, Margaret. Prince Charles said, you better tell her to get up. She doesn't know what a rise is. No, but seriously, I'm made up coming from Liverpool because I'm the only one that's working. There's a fella down the pier head today in Liverpool, you know where that is, don't you? He's up to here with unemployment, the price of £1, God knows what. And he's on the landing stage and he's stark naked and a big crowd gathered. And he went, right, I'm going to jump in there now and I just want nobody to save me. They go, don't do it, mate, it's not worth it. He said, I'm going to jump in there now and I just want nobody to save me. They go, don't do it, it's not worth it. He said, I am. So he dives in and he's drowning. 3 seconds later, there was a splash and the fella's gone in after him. He's just going under for the 3rd time and this fella grabbed him. He went, get back! I told you you don't want to be saved. He said, I don't want to save you. Where do you work? But what's the buses like in James Leeds? Are they bad? Are they bad? Well, like us, yeah, paint them in yellow. Well, they tell me in Liverpool the buses have gone private. Where I live, they've gone secret. The other morning I was waiting for the bus. There was this girl sitting on one of them concrete litter bins. She went, hey, Gary, because she knew me, you know. She went, hey, Gary, I've waited that long for a bus. My ass has gone to sleep. I said, I know. I said, I've heard it snore 5 times. No. This prostitute came up to me. She said, have you got £5 for a short time? I said, I've had £5 for a bloody long time. Now, but seriously, I got on this bus and we're going through the notorious Toxteth area. I'm not saying Toxteth's rough, right, but the window cleaner uses a sander. Get on the bus there and we're going along and there's this priest running for the bus. And the bus driver, being a good Catholic lad, stopped the bus and let him on. And he's in his pocket looking for his change. Just then, a dog ran in front of the bus. The bus jerked and the priest went down the bus, swung round on one of the poles and his elbow caught this woman right in the breast. And when he turned round, he noticed she was a woman of ill repute. You know, a lady of the night. You know, a slag. He went, oh, my dear, let me tell you. He said, if your heart is as soft as your breast, I'll see you in heaven. He said, if your dick's as hard as your elbow, I'll see you when we get off. Now, you said be risky, James, you know what I mean? No. I brought the wife with me tonight, but I tell you what, I'm not saying my wife's fat, but wherever you go in the house, she's next to you. I tried to climb over her in bed last night and burnt my ass on the light. Now, I'm not saying she's a moaner, don't get me wrong, but she's a very, very lucky girl. She's very nearly the Yorkshire Ripper's 14th victim. He was with her for half an hour. He said, here's the hammer at yourself on the bloody head. Just before I go, James, can I ask you about the operation? Can we tell him about the operation?
Yeah, I suppose, Gary, you've destroyed everything else. You may as well do that, yeah.
Yes, well, James was in hospital the other week, weren't you, James? Yeah. After 20 minutes, the doctor came out the operating theatre and said to his wife, Mrs. Whale, we can't do the operation. She said, why? He said, well, there's no end to the prick. Sorry, mate.
We'll take a break. Don't go away.
I don't know, but I've been told. James Whale! James Whale on your radio. James Whale! Now he's on the TV too. James Whale! Call him now, he'll talk to you. James Whale! Earthlings, satellite television is dying. We cannot survive without the program you call the James Whale Radio Show. Any program can fill a nighttime schedule, but only one can get ratings. Our contract people will soon be negotiating. You have been warned.
No. Do you find when you go into a club and perhaps they hadn't realised that you have no arms when you're actually booked, do they suddenly, are they taken back or what?
When the curtain goes back, I think they just go like that. Oh, you know, how do we handle this one? And as you've seen there, the first gag is, don't worry about it, I can handle it. So,
yeah,
you know,
okay.
No big deal.
Right, we're going to, actually, we had a little problem with the sound there, Gary. You probably kicked off everything there. So we're going to come back and continue this discussion in a few moments. Before we do that, we've got a new video, new entry into 77 position in the chart. And it's called, as Cecil, who's directing tonight, quite often says to me, he says, James, sit down. Number 77 in the network chart is called James, Sit Down, and we were discussing whether it's James and Sit Down. And Caroline, come here a moment, can you? And a little, actually, oh, this is Caroline, our bimbo tonight. Oh, dear. Carol, just stand over there. Do you know what's going wrong? No. Oh, could you just pick my pen up for me? I'm sorry about that. Could you? No. Oh, well, thanks. Perhaps you give me a cup of coffee or something. I'm sorry about this. I generally, we're going to get back and have our discussion about this. And if you want to keep calling in, the phone number and the fax number, you know the phone number, 0532 46 1000. Peter Straker's singing later on in the show, we hope. We've got a competition later on in the show where you could win a nice new telephone. And there is a little problem. I just do not, if I take this out, I'm not going to walk for the door. But can we, there's something going on in another studio here at the moment because I'm getting all sorts of funny things coming through this. So could we check it out? I'm sorry it seems like a repeat. Can we just check out what's happening here, please? I'm not sure what's going on.
Coming out of musical item in 5 seconds, going live and cue.
And welcome back to the Grumbleweeds Radio Show. And now the answers to last week's quiz. That was the winner, Mr. Master Stroud of Apley Bridge, and he has won the microwave bed, where you can get a good night's sleep in 10 minutes. The answers to the quiz were, of course, number 1, a 36B cup, number 2, only if you scratch it, number 3, a Bradall and a jar of Vaseline, but not necessarily in that order, and number 4, a boxing glove and a polony. And now, for our late night listeners, it's time for a book at bedtime. And here is the story so far. Benji has mumps. Nothing unusual in that, except Benji is a fox terrier. His master, Rupert, has telephoned his ex-wife, Veronica, asking her to return his false teeth. Alice is having an affair with the man at the garage in the hope that he will fix her oil leak. The vicar has opened a massage parlour while his wife is away at Brownie Camp. Now, this has angered the bishop, as he wanted to open one himself. Meanwhile, David and Jenny are having a dirty weekend. And now, read on.
David and Jenny felt that they had known each other forever, yet they had met only 3 short weeks ago. With Jenny's husband safely away on a business trip, they lay locked in each other's arms in Jenny's beach chalet on the south coast. "This is heaven," said David, as he gently stroked Jenny's satin skin. She gazed at him and gently whispered in his ear, "I love you, darling."
Excuse me, we seem to be having a bit of trouble with your microphone. We need more voice. There's a problem with your microphone. Bit more voice, please.
Yes, jolly good.
Carry on.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. "I love you," whispered Jenny. "I know you do," murmured David, "and I love you too." They gazed at each other for a second. This was paradise.
I'm terribly sorry to bother you. I know you're working, you're doing well, but there's a problem with your mic. We're not picking you up. There's no needle whatsoever.
Right.
Please project a bit, please.
Yes. We don't get this trouble in London.
I know.
Carry on,
Producers will
please.
shit 'em.
Yes.
Thank you.
"What are you thinking?" said Jenny quietly. "I'm thinking how peaceful everything is. You and I and the silence around us." Jenny could feel her heart gently pounding under her breast. "Boom! Boom! Boom! Boom!" "Oh, David," she murmured, "whisper those words again."
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Could you please project? There's a problem with your microphone. I know you're working and I'm doing my best to deal with it. We're not getting any needle whatsoever.
Right.
Project, please.
I'll do my best.
Project, please.
Yes.
Carry on.
David's voice was almost inaudible as he whispered in her ear, "I love you, Jenny." Silently, he nibbled her ear. Suddenly, there was a sound downstairs. Jenny sat up. "It's my husband," she whispered. "Get in the wardrobe."
Excuse me, we can hardly hear a word you are saying. Would you please project?
Right.
Trying to keep this show together.
Right.
We've got listeners, they can't hear.
Right.
It's not my fault. The machinery is a... Look, just...
"Get in the wardrobe," whispered David. "Yes," said Jenny, "and don't make a sound. These walls are like paper, right? And if my husband found out you were hiding in that wardrobe without your trousers on, he'd kill you." Silently, Jenny blew David a kiss.
Right.
She blew him a kiss again. "Oh, you top for this? Wow!" She whispered, "What I want to know is, how did he know you were here with me when he was driving up the M1 to Yorkshire?" David whispered back, "He only had to wind his window down and he could bloody well hear us. Is that bloody well loud enough for you?"
I think we're getting you. I think we're getting you.
Thank you. Thank you. Follow me, Bimbo. Follow me. Sorry about that. I think I'm gonna have to go into the other studio. We'll bring everybody in. We've got so many different things, obviously, happening in here that it's actually making life difficult. Move a bit faster. Go on, move a bit faster. Oh, come on. There's people ringing in at the moment. Come on, Bimbo. Get a shot of this. There we are. Good. Okay. We're back in here. Right. Dear me. We'll take some calls. Where are the calls? Bring the calls over here. Where's the calls? Okay, you got the calls. That's lovely. Thank you very much indeed. That's nice. Isn't that nice? Just do a little twirl over here in the corner over there. That's very good. A little twirl. Yes. Yes. Here. You can get one of those. If you drop us a line with a stamped address envelope, we'll tell you how you can get one. Sorry about this. Gareth, are you okay there? Morgan. What am I calling you, Gareth? Gareth Morgan. Gareth Morgan. Good Welsh name, see? All my friends in the Principality. We're going to take some calls, and we'll come back and talk in a few moments. Carmel.
Hello, James.
Hello, Carmel.
I'd like to ask the lady that you were interviewing earlier, what percentage of her clients have actually married through a dating agency?
You would? Well, we'd be delighted to do that if we had her here in the studio live, but of course, if she was on on tape, we can't. But anyway, thank you very much indeed, Carmel from Dundee. Sorry about that. Let's talk to Brian from Manchester. Hello, Brian.
Hello?
Yes, Brian.
Yeah. Hello, I had no cue because it was just at the phone.
I beg your pardon?
Who was a paraplegic, you know.
Say that again, Brian.
I had a friend who was a paraplegic. We met through a mutual booze problem, you know.
Yeah.
And he's always getting these women. He had one come up from down south, and he asked me if I could lend him a bed.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you did, Brian. It's always nice to have somebody who is a caring and a true friend, Brian. A true friend. We're going to take a break. Back after this.
46 1000. James Whale.
I still haven't got a part on Emmerdale Farm. Everybody's moved into my little studio here now. I've got Gareth, who isn't really Gareth, but Morgan Williams, and I've got Gary, who is Gary Skyner, and I've got Heather, who isn't Helen, but is Heather Clark, and we're all in here. We were talking, it seems like ages ago, about the problems of disability, the problems that people have that they don't talk about. Gareth is the director of SPOD, which is an organisation which deals with sexual problems of disabled people. Right. Now, I talk to Gary first of all. Before I go on, I'm going to get really annoyed if somebody keeps on talking outside. And I'm very annoyed. Sorry, Gary, it's my programme. I will have order.
Do you like?
You're married?
Yes.
And your wife has no disability at all?
Nope, only having me.
Apart from the ones you mentioned when you were doing your act?
Yeah.
When you first started, I mean, did you have other girlfriends before that?
Yeah, one or two.
Did you ever find that your disability ever made it difficult for you to meet girls, or...?
No, I think it's just, really with girls, it shocks them, doesn't it? I think the main thing is, like, when you go up and ask them to dance for the first time, say, when you're trying to cop for them, if you like, and they go, some of them shy away, but then again, you've got a lot of intelligent girls nowadays who just say, well, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. You know, fair enough.
Heather, let me ask you, what happens when you're out? Presumably you go to a club or something, you go with a friend and you'll sit there. And will a guy come up and talk to you? Will he find it difficult to talk to you and ask you if you'd like to sort of have a drink, or how do they approach the situation?
Very often quite well.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're very often fooled by my legs because they're artificial.
Yeah.
So they ask you to dance and they think,
What happens when you say, I've got no legs either?
they say, you're joking.
Yeah.
Because they're, well, I always say they're tailor-made, so they fool many, many people.
I mean, are you in danger? I mean, I'm in danger of being criticised for talking about this on the programme, but are you ever in danger of weirdos, and perhaps Gareth will come in here, who fancy going out with a girl like you, just for the sheer hell of it, who aren't really interested in you, but it's just a sort of a kind of rather warped sensation they're looking for?
Maybe so.
Do you have to guard against that?
Yes, you do,
Yeah.
yeah. But I suppose with every girl, with things the way they are these days, it's always at the back of every girl's mind. Why should I be any different? You know, I can't belt them with my arm, so I wrap a leg round their neck instead.
You take it off and hit them with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Gareth, what's the biggest problem that people would get in touch with your organisation about? Is there one problem that comes out over and over again or not?
I think two, really. One is men who can't get erections and just see sex as intercourse, penetration, whatever, and the other is the lack of relationships, that people are wanting advice and help to encourage them to go into a relationship. And cope with a rejection that when somebody realises that they haven't got legs or arms or whatever.
Well, you know these late night packs that you have, James? Actually, I've found out why, and on the end of your condoms they've got them little extra bits.
What's that for?
Well, it's for fellas like me to take them off with their feet.
Oh. Listen, unfortunately, because of the little problems we had before, we haven't been able to do as much conversation on these lines as I'd hoped. What I would, thank you very much indeed, and stay there for a moment, what I would like you to do is write to me if you would like to find out any more, and I will give you Spod's address, or you can ring us in the office during the week and we'll give you the number. Now, the competition from last week, we had over 2,000 correct answers, which I thought this time in the morning was pretty good. Round of applause for the people who entered. All in here, all right? Now, over 2,000 people. I asked the question, we were talking about these sort of games. Hold that one. There we are, young Caroline. And dungeons and what? Answer this well-known phrase or saying, dungeons and what? And of course, the winning, what's it? What's the word on the word? The winning word was Dungeons and Dragons. That was the winning answer. And over 2,000 people correct. We got a couple of people who didn't get it right. Hack/Nick from Norfolk, T.R. Bennett in Gwent, and Myra Fuller in Middlesex, all had ridiculous answers. And we found these records, a couple of albums and a CD, and nobody wanted them in the office, got loads and loads of them, nobody wanted them, so we're going to send those to you for being the 3 people only who got it wrong, all right? Round of applause for them. Let's have a quick dig in here, because running out of time. There's 1, 2, right? That's first one. Who won it? Charlotte Hume from St Ives in Cornwall. Well done for her, first prize. That's rather nice, isn't it? And that comes from Sam Robbins from Daffyd. OK, and we'll send that off to him. This week's competition. Now, because the people in the post room got very upset, we had so many entries and it really snarled things up. They said, could you make it a much more difficult competition this week? We're giving away this. Cilla Black doesn't want it anymore. It's a telephone. You got that? Lovely telephone, Ferrari telephone. Very expensive, look nice on anybody's sideboard. You can win this for the first correct answer out of the bag next week, who can tell us what the STD code is for Leeds. It's on the screen. What is the STD code for Leeds? I can't do the programme like this when I've got to rush it around, but we did want to get in. You wanted me to take some calls now? Oh, you got a minute, of course. Cecil and I are going to have words later, if this carries on. I'm rushing to go into the music. Are we going into it in 40 seconds, are we? You'd like me to take some calls? I haven't got time for calls in 45 seconds. Duty manager told me to write this to somebody, he says, called James Whale. It comes from Miss Goody Two-Shoes from the Cherry Tree Hotel. It's the only facts we had time to mention on the programme tonight. OK, now, I have a very good friend. I've known him for years and years and years. We first met in Newcastle. His name is Peter Straker. You will probably have seen him in that wonderful TV series called Connie, where he played a rather vicious, nasty guy. He is starting in September touring with a new 60s musical called Hold Tight, It's 60s Nights. One of the songs from this is Bridge Over Troubled Water. Peter Straker is going to finish the show for us tonight. Do join us next week when we're talking about manners.